So let's move into the swing. So we've discussed setup, creating a small powered opportunity. So we want to feel that very little moves, in my opinion. I feel that once you've set your pressure a little bit forwards, that you don't really want it to rock back at all. If I can feel that from my setup position, that I'm a little bit forward. The other thing I will mention, again, from a pitching perspective as well, try to keep your shoulders sort of as level as possible to the ground. We don't want to have the occasions of the right shoulder dipping down, which I'll bring into in a minute when it comes to affecting your strike. If everything is a little bit forwards, the action is very much just an arms swing back, swing through. If I feel that the pressure doesn't move, low point will stay slightly in front of the golf ball, and the angle of attack becomes a little bit more negative, a slight drop down. And then the keys, again, same with pitching, is turn the chest and get away from the earth. If you can make sure that the chest is turning and that you are slightly extending through the shot, you will control your low point. If we start to see the knees dip, if we start to see the chest going down, if we start to see a lack of rotation, then we start seeing this. Now we bring in all heaps of trouble where we get the fats and the thins, where we're pulling the hands because the club is passing us at speed and the arms have got to do something. So quite often we see a sort of a collapse and a lift up, etc. The other thing that we need to be careful about in terms of strike, especially if you are struggling with the fats and the thins, is pressure and the trail shoulder. If I start to rock back into my trail side and try to drop my trail shoulder because I'm trying to maybe scoop the golf ball up in the air, all you're actually doing is moving the low point before the golf ball. You can see if you use my mic as a reference, that's pretty much the low point that I want to feel. So if I don't move from a lateral perspective, I feel that I can strike quite consistently just after that golf ball. If we start to rock back and then here, then you can see that I'm feeling that I'm striking the ground here, which obviously is going to give me that strike issues and that consistent issues. So this is a little practice that you can do. I've just picked another golf club because I know that you're going to have another golf club in your bag. So grab a club of choice. I've got a sandwich in my hand. I will discuss different options later in this series. But if I place it so it's sort of just by my trail heel in my setup position, it's given me about just over a club head space. And I think that is enough to give you a bit of a visual, to give you a bit of awareness or whether your angle of attack is correct in terms of slightly downward blows, slightly negative if we was using data, or if we are coming in too shallow and therefore you're going to catch the shaft. Now, obviously, you could use an alignment stick, you could use a towel, but I just thought for the purpose of the video, I will use a club shaft. So through a setup perspective, I'm nice and close to it. Toes are left, weight is forward, gripping down to reduce the power. If I feel that I now just rock the arms back and then rock the arms through, then I know that I've got a nice little arc. Now, I will add something to this right now, which is the feeling of what the toe of the club does. If I'm trying to chip this ball up in the air and I've got a sandwich, I want to maintain loft, there will be the smallest amount of rotation. What we don't want to see in chipping is that we are just taking this club straight down and getting the face pointing down towards the ground. If I keep everything level, everything's still going to be on a small little arc. It's not a straight back, straight through action. It's definitely not a putting action. It's close to a putting action, but even with a putting action, there's going to be a small arc to this. So there should be a little bit of face rotation where the toe slightly works up towards the sky. And then if you needed to maintain that loft, another good feel is keeping that you're maintaining the loft through impact towards the sky. So there may be a minimal amount of rotation on the way back, and then you may be holding that through the golf ball just to keep the loft through the shot. What I don't like to see is when we start seeing the club being pulled low and on the inside, face down towards the ground, and then you coming from a very shallow perspective, and then quite often what happens is we have to react. So if we feel like we don't have enough loft on the golf club, or we feel that our chipping doesn't go in the air very much, we start to lean back, which obviously affects the low point. And it's then very much depending on timing, whether we actually do hit a good chip, and the lie dependent as well. So if I can just keep everything left, everything forward, and then feel just a tiny bit of rotation, and just feel that everything turns towards the sky and the face is not rolling quite as much, then I feel that I'm going to maintain loft. Now, I'm not really aiming for a hole, actually, so maybe I should do. No, I'm just going to chip it. I'm going to just chip it nice and in between. Just keep the camera nice and straight. I'm sure we'll go on to chipping towards holes. So just to recap the two videos so far, feet pointing forwards, nice and close to the golf ball, pressure on the lead side, tiny bit of rotation in the backswing, feel like I turn the chest and extend up through the strike to maintain my low point radius, and then just as a good practice visual, then I'm feeling that I'm just going to stay away from that club shaft. Now, the contact was a little bit sort of ground contact, which is fine. We want to minimize that a little bit. What we don't want to try to see when it comes to chipping, and this is, again, it's very similar to pitching, is I need to feel that I might be trying to match up the shaft at impact as I did at the address position. I felt like that, and definitely one of my faults is I get a little bit leaning where the grip is going first. It's definitely just how I was taught, and I'm struggling to get out of that feeling. So you may feel your bottom hand releasing a little bit. Now, you're not scooping, you're not flicking, you are releasing the angle, and as long as everything is forward and the chest is turning through strike, you're not scooping it. The problem is when people start to go this way, then start to scoop it, that's when they start to get issues. So it's not a scoop, it's a release. So let's see if I can get less sort of contact with the ground. Feel that my bottom hand is just going to release underneath the left. That was better connection. I'm clearly very consistent when it comes to my chipping, but if I can get that sort of crisp little nip, you will be able to generate a little bit more spin, again, which I will talk about later in the series. So from a setup, trying to keep it as simple as possible. So just feel there is just a rocking of the arms, a tiny bit of rotation where that club face stays sort of nice and level, and then just feeling as you are moving through the shot that everything is staying very stable. As soon as we start to change angles, whether it's a weight shift, whether it's a shoulder tilt, that's when we start bringing into some issues.